Salutations, ladies and gentlemen. The Knife Raven here, back again with another video. And to continue my previous series of Sheffield A. Wright knives, today I will be talking about one of my all-time favorite patterns, the A. Wright Son Ettrick. Now, this is a pattern that had been invented, I believe, back in the mid-1800s by Lord Wharncliffe and his gamekeeper as a small pocket gutting knife for small games such as rabbits and such. Now, Wharncliffe is a probably very well-known name in the knife community, and that is this blade shape. However, the Ettrick is the name of this particular pattern. Now, not all Ettricks are Wharncliffes, and not all Wharncliffes are Ettricks. For example, this is a Wharncliffe by A. Wright. However, this is called the Senator. And I have seen Ettrick handles, so this very nice sway-back handle style with a pruner blade. So technically that's an Ettrick, but not a Wharncliffe. So it is important to note, you can have an Ettrick that is not a Wharncliffe, and you can have a Wharncliffe that is not an Ettrick. The two are separate. Although this is possibly the original design and one of the very first prototypes of a Wharncliffe blade. The very same Wharncliffe blades that many of us now know and love. So this particular knife is the budget-y model made by A. Wright. This is the rosewood handle material. As some of my older viewers may remember, I have reviewed this same knife before. It was about a year or so ago, and it was on my other channel. This is the Ettrick in ebony. You can see this one's been sharpened a bit, and it's very oily. I've wanted to keep it in good condition. Heavy patina on the blade and spring. So this knife has been used quite a bit. This one, however, there's no patina yet. It hasn't been sharpened. It actually came fairly sharp. I think A. Wright is improving their sharpening game, as opposed to their old knives, which used to come almost blunt. Now, the specifications on this knife, you're looking at an overall length of about 6 1/4 inches. The blade length, including the unsharpened bit, is not quite 2.5, and just the cutting edge is barely 2 inches. So no matter what way you measure this, this is perfectly UK legal, and it should be legal in almost any jurisdiction. Again, I'm not a lawyer. Check your local laws. Don't ask me for advice. But I do know that this is under 3 inches in blade length, so this should be legal in the UK. Now, the close length is just a little under 4 inches. I'd probably guess it's 3 3/4 inches. So you have a very large handle with a very short blade. Now, some people may consider this unorthodox and would not be a fan of it, although I have to say the large, comfortable handle complements the small blade very well. It's a very comfortable knife in the hand. Even if you're holding it in the reverse grip for whittling and wood carving, this is a very comfortable knife all around. Whittling and wood carving, despite this original blade shape being made as a game knife, it has kind of evolved into a more wood carving-esque style. In fact, many really, really well-made whittling knives include a Wharncliffe blade, just because it has been shown to be incredibly effective in that field of work. So, fit and finish on this knife, I'd almost argue that it is better than my other Ettrick. Gapping is pretty much non-existent. The spring does sit a little low, so that might appear to be a gap, but it is not. The only real gap on this knife is right here at the bottom, where you can see there is a little bit of a gap. But aside from that, gapping is not a problem here. The grinds are very even. The pins are incredibly flush. Transitions are seamless. Blade centering is almost perfect. It's a little bit off to the right. Well, the knife's left, but that is very, very close to perfect. My other Ettrick, just for comparison, is actually a little bit off to the left. So they're very close. One's just a little to the left, one's a little to the right, but they're very close to perfect. Spring does not sit proud. When the blade is open, transition from blade to spring is very nice. Quite a bit better than this one. As you can see, there's a bit of a choppy cutoff there. Blade play, just like the first one, is absolutely non-existent. Incredibly sturdy knife. The blade, let's do a blade warp check. And it would seem that this is one of the closest knives I have seen to perfect. That does look perfect. If you hold it a certain angle, it might appear a little off that way. But overall, I think this is a lot closer to perfect. It's better than this one, which, as you can also see, is a little bit off to the left. It also has some weird grind flaws over there with the bolsters, and this one does not seem to have that to the same degree. The stamp is quite interesting. They're actually different stamps. The one on the right says A. Wright Son Limited, Sheffield, England. The one on the left here is simplified and it just says A. Wright, Sheffield, England. I don't see much of a difference here, although it does kind of make the blade less crowded. Looks a bit cleaner. Again, brass pins, liners, carbon steel spring, nickel bolsters, and a C70 carbon blade. C70, as I've said before, it's like the 12C27 of carbon steels. It's basic, it's simple, but it can take a beating. It doesn't need to have, 10 out of 10 edge retention. Its Rockwell hardness is, I believe, 54 to 57 or 58. I don't remember. But it's tough enough that you can get a bit of work out of it, but it's also soft enough that you can sharpen it up incredibly quickly. I've used a little mini kitchen steel. It's about this big for pocket knives, and it works really well on these. In fact, I got a very good edge on this. I kind of cleaned up this part, and it's pretty darn sharp. So these knives are easy to sharpen. You can sharpen them with little effort. You don't need to scrape away too much of the blade. It really doesn't take much to get these back in working order. So despite this, you will have to take care of this blade, first in the sharpening aspect, and second, it's carbon steel, so don't let any moisture get to it, and if it does get wet, just wipe it down, dry it off, and then apply some oil to it. Light mineral oil will work, multi-purpose oil, specifically designed blade oil. These are all very fair choices and should work relatively well. The handles here are a very nice rosewood. This is their cheapest handle option. And this knife, I believe, cost only 15 GBP, which is a steal compared to this one, which costs 32. So you're paying quite a bit extra for that smooth-grained ebony. But if you're just wanting a basic handle, rosewood will absolutely get the job done. The pull on this is, I'd estimate, about a 6. And again, it's left up to personal preference. I'd say that it's about a 6. This one's maybe also about a 6. I've said before this is 7.5, but comparing it to some of the other Wright knives I have, these two are probably very close to the 6, almost 7 range. Oh, and an update on the Barlow. Despite the fact that it was incredibly hard to open at first, I've gotten used to it. The pull did, thankfully, loosen up a little. I didn't need to do anything to it, and now I can open and close this knife with, admittedly, a bit of difficulty because the spring is very strong, with relative ease. Because, well, as you just saw, I was able to open it with my nail in the nail nick the entire way through, and I'm not in any particular discomfort. So keep in mind, if you get a knife like this and the spring is very, very tight, don't worry, they will loosen up a little over time. Just thought I'd mention that. But in the meantime, what are my thoughts on this Ettrick knife? Well, as you may know, based on that first video I made, I adore this pattern. This is one of my favorite knife patterns of all time. And in fact, just to show how far down the rabbit hole of addiction I am, I have purchased 2 more of these, and they will be arriving sometime within the next couple weeks. And those 2 are going to be very interesting because they're in a handle material that no other Ettrick has had that I've ever, well, no Arthur Wright knife has had that I own, at least. It's going to be a very special material that I quite like. But nonetheless, in the meantime, these knives are amazing. I adore them. Just the quality is getting better over time. I mean, even if small differences were the only differences, if it's been just over a year since I got this knife to this knife, they have made significant improvements. And truly, I hate to say it because everyone hates on them, but I always say that the gold standard at the moment is GEC, and the mediocre standard is Case. I have Case knives and I still like them, but it amazes me that Case charges, $100 Canadian for a knife with quite a few flaws, when Arthur Wright & Son can make me a knife that costs 24 Canadian or 23 Canadian, and it is better than a Case. And again, I know everything always comes back to Case and GEC. I know. But truly, I hope Case can figure out something, because seeing that this competition is beginning to arise, and Arthur Wright, they're becoming a serious contender for one of the best traditional knife brands in the world. And I know that's a very lofty claim, but truly, think about it. Custom knives are way too expensive for the average person. GEC is impossible to get. And, most people, if they want a traditional pocket knife that is made, with a traditional style in a small workshop by a family-run business, they're probably not going to look to Rough Rider or Schrade for that kind of thing. So, I'm not kidding when I say, Wright, they might just become one of the best traditional knife makers that you can possibly find for the price. Again, I say it. It all comes down to price. If this knife was 100 GBP, I might not be as favorable to it, because it's still good, but it has flaws. For 100 GBP, though, it shouldn't. For 15 GBP, I do not understand why this brand has not become more popular. And so, you may have seen it before. I've tried starting a hashtag, British Blades, and I really want to spread that hashtag around the knife community, because I love traditional knives, and I love knives from the historic city of Sheffield. And there's something so timeless about their style. It's like Zollingen blades. You just can't help but love them. And I can't claim to be doing anything to help make Arthur Wright any sales. For all I know, my videos aren't doing anything good, but folks like Eric over at the channel Slick Slicers, and there are lots of other channels. There's, for example, Alice, come here, Patty's Potato Peelers, The Marshallist, Warthog. They are all trying to shed light on these small companies that are producing hidden gems in this knife community, and I want to see more of that. To any people who have reviewed these knives and spoke highly of them, and tried to explain that, hey, there are other options that you may not have heard of before, I want to say, on the behalf of small knife companies and such, thank you. And I'm not affiliated with Arthur Wright. They've never sent me anything for free for no reason. I'm not sponsored by them, but just I love small companies and I love traditional manufacturing processes. And anytime I see a family run business that still makes artisan small batch products, it just makes my day. It makes me smile. And then seeing people go ahead and support them and help the company grow, it is something that never gets old to me. It always makes me happy to see. So again, this has gone off the rails and become a ramble, as a lot of my videos have, and I apologize for that. But I really think that A. Wright deserves more love. This brand has gone through a lot. They started their brand in 1947, so right after World War II, and they managed to make it through. They made it through the 2000s. They started going through a really tough time in the 2010s, I believe, and then Michael and Ashley Harrison bought the company, and ever since, the quality's been going up, the service has been going up, the everything about the brand has been getting better. And to Michael and Ashley Harrison, I have to say, you guys are knife wizards. You are doing everything right. I keep saying that. I'm sure they're going to think it's a pun at this point. But I am so happy for this brand. And I really, really, every time I see a knife with this fit and finish made by a brand that isn't charging a huge amount of money, I just wish them the best. Truly. Maybe it's just that I'm taking a moment. I will be transparent. I am very biased because I really like this pattern and not many people make it. But I really think that this brand has such potential. From Ashley's custom knives that, cost anything from 100 to 200 GBP to just the basic 15-pound simple Ettrick with a rosewood handle. I mean, it's perfect. It's perfectly simple. It's everything you'd really want in a traditional knife. And I just have to say, I will be buying more of these. I might start collecting Ettricks. But as a whole, this brand, I think there is a very bright future for this brand. If things keep going in the direction they're going, we may just have a brand that will get worldwide recognition and might become the new Case, the new GEC, the new Ottermesser, the new Boker. I don't know. Maybe I'm just speculating because I want that to happen, but at the rate we're going, it very well might. But in the meantime, thank you for sitting through this video if you've managed to make it this far. And I do have this knife. This is the last of my little collection of Sheffield knives that I got from Heine Haynes. And this one I'm very excited to review, so stick around for this video. It should be coming out within the next couple days. But yeah, I just love these knives. These are amazing little knives. Despite their tiny flaws, I still love them. And whenever they make a perfect one, it makes me smile. So thank you very much for watching. My final thoughts on this Ettrick, 10 out of 10. The tiny imperfections, like the slight bit of offset blade, the little bit of a gap there, that doesn't bother me. This knife is beautiful. I love it. It's simple. It's classic. It's comfortable in the hand. It's legal almost anywhere. It's inexpensive. I don't know what else to say. Please, go try one of these knives. They look strange at first, but it's like the Spyderco of traditionals. They may look weird, but once you put them in your hand, you will just love them. So please, give this knife a try. Thank you very much for watching. This has been the Arthur Wright & Son Ettrick in Rosewood, and a bit of a long ramble/rant about how much I love these knives. And this has been the Knife Raven, as always, signing off. Goodbye.